Hello, everybody. This is the Chocolate News Podcast. I'm your co-host, John Alexander Reese.
And I'm your co-host, Morgan Angelique Owens.
And if you didn't know, the Cincinnati Herald has been around since 1955 and is the leading African-American owned newspaper in the greater Cincinnati area and northern Kentucky area. Today, we have with us our digital correspondent, Andria Carter. How's it going, Andria?
It's going great, John. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. And with us today, we have a special guest. We have film critic Stern-Enzi, member of the Critics' Choice Association and Rotten Tomatoes approved critic. How's it going, TT?
Pretty good. Glad to be here. Down at the final stretch here for the award season.
Yep, we're almost at the Academy Awards, which is this Sunday, by the way. So make sure you tune into that. So before we head into our main topic, what's the chocolate news of the week, Andria?
It has been, on a local level, interesting, and on a national level, it's like, I can't believe they did that. So I guess I will start with the closest thing to my heart is Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. Her performance of questioning over the last 2 days has been outstanding. I mean, she was poised, intelligent. She gave in-depth answers when she could. She corrected. She did everything that she needed to do to prove that she is qualified as a judge. And I think as a Black woman, watching the first Black nominee, like watching Vice President Harris, it is an honor to watch this hearing and listen to her. But at the same time, I just wanted to go down to that hearing and smacked every single senator who had the nerve to try and race bait her, challenge her in a way that no human being should be challenged for a job. I mean, she had such an extensive job interview that they tried their darndest to bring out angry Black woman, because if she had gotten angry, that's it, it would have been done.
Yep.
And they drilled and drilled and honed in and honed in. I have never heard anyone talk about child pornography so much, trying to get her on her judgment, talking about all the past Supreme Court nominees and what she thought of them, and how Lindsey Graham led the charge alone. He should just be taken out to the woodshed and just spanked. I mean, he needs a good old-fashioned Southern spanking, if I could say that. I mean,
it's Lindsey Graham, so I'm not surprised at all.
You know what? I'm not surprised, but I am appalled I know what every Supreme Court nominee has gone through some intense scrutinizing, but as a Black woman, to sit through that, to try and provoke someone to get angry so they could prove a stereotype, is insulting. Especially someone who they have approved several times already to be on the bench, the DC Circuit bench, then the federal bench, and then the appellate court bench. She's been before them several times. So they were already aware of what she could do, but then to come back this time to meet their purpose of trying to provoke angry Black women because they had cameras on for a stereotype, I think was highly insulting and showed why people don't like the political system that we have at times, especially Black people, for what they did. And even though the Dems tried to soothe it, overall, it's a testament to why Black women are so strong, and a lot of us are still single because we don't like the bullshit.
Mm.
And we don't play games. We're very direct, we're very straightforward, and we can handle a lot and take a lot until you provoke us to say something different. And, it's just a testament. And in fact, it was done in front of her parents.
Yeah.
And also the embarrassing part. It was done in front of her parents who sat through that mess with her.
Yeah.
And I'm sure she had some few choice words behind the scenes. But anyway, so tomorrow is the final day of the hearing where professional organizations will come in and testify for her or against her. Everyone will have final say on the Senate committee before they have a vote and send it to the floor for a full vote. So it seems there's some assurance that so far everyone is very impressed with her performance. They still have 50 votes according to some reports right now. We'll just have to see what they say tomorrow. And I will be updating our website with what happened today and go from there. But I mean, it was the overall very impressive job for Judge Jackson. And I'm looking forward to seeing her sworn in and get a commemorative magazine or newspaper. So
yes,
if I can say that.
Yeah.
Moving forward in the chocolate news, I guess the most important thing is I'm going to switch to COVID, and the federal program that has been paying for testing and vaccines is going to expire. That news, I believe, came out today, and the reimbursement part for claims and things like that will end in early April. I know there's a new variant on the rise that has risen in concern across the country, but so far has not taken hold in America as strongly as Omicron. So we'll have to wait and see what happens in the next 3 weeks or so to see if this new variant is going to be causes any problems or not, as people are starting to lift mandates and things like that. But that's going on right now. You still can order free home tests. I do recommend that everyone get that and have them on hand. I have 3 myself, so I'm concerned if I've been in a crowd too much to take a test, just to be on the safe side.
Well, I got 4 boxes, so I'm making sure I'm prepared.
Well, I'm trying to be prepared. I think everyone should be prepared. Still have plenty of masks. I say use your judgment on going into a store. If there are very few people, you might be able to get away with not having a mask on, or if there's a lot of people, put a mask on. It just depends on protocols and how safe you feel being out and about as we continue to adjust to living in a pandemic. The next chocolate news, I'm saving the best story for last, but I'm going to start it with Sean Miller is returning to Xavier as head of the men's basketball coach. I'm sorry, but Xavier needs help.
Yes, they do. As a graduate of Xavier, they definitely need help.
I mean, I like college basketball, especially during March Madness, and it was upsetting to see none of our local teams made it, UC or Xavier.
Yeah.
Kentucky's in it, and I think they're still alive for a minute. Many of the other Ohio teams that were in it early on are out, which is sad. But I'm just happy to see that the Musketeers are getting someone who knows the culture of Xavier, who knows what works in the men's basketball program. And I'm looking forward to next season to see what they do. I'm just looking forward to it because, I mean, I like watching UC. I like watching Xavier. They're both impressive basketball programs. But, when everyone goes through a period of needing a little reworking, unfortunately, Xavier needs a lot of revamping. A lot.
Yes, they do.
Both in not only leadership, but in talent on the team. I mean, everyone is talented who performed this year, but when you don't make March Madness and you've always been there, you got a problem. You didn't pick well. So you just have to do a better job of recruiting and coaching. So, but I would say the best for last is Taft brought home the championship.
Yay, Taft. All right.
It's just an impressive team. It was impressive. I mean, it was a challenging game. And I believe it was a nail biter down to the last seconds.
It was.
Which is, I mean, any game that comes in the last second. I mean, the Bengals lost in the last seconds of the Super Bowl. So, and they played an impressive game. So Taft alone in this karma-esque of Cincinnati, where the seconds proving you win or lose, Taft on such a smaller arena level has embodied that karma. And I'm so happy for Taft. I hope they, enjoy their win, do a good job. I think Coach DeMarco Bradley did an excellent job leading, coaching his players. I think they've showed impressive talent and attitude. And I can't wait to see what they do next year. I have not gone to a high school basketball game in a long time, but I'm almost tempted to sort of get their schedule for next year to see what they do. So you just never know.
Yeah, but I'm so happy for Taft too. They did an amazing job. I know my dad was very ecstatic since he's a graduate of Taft High School also, and he also taught there. So I know he was very excited about the win.
I think the rallying cries for the Senators will be heard long and hard for at least many a celebration for a little while as they get ready to go into spring break. So I'm very happy for them. So, and that is the chocolate news for right now.
All right. Thank you, Andrea. So now we're going to go to our main topic, which concerns the 94th Annual Academy Awards. And we have our film critic here, TT Stern-Enzi, member of the Critic Choice Association and a Rotten Tomatoes approved critic. So once again, I just want to say thank you, TT, for coming on. And how are you doing today?
Pretty good, pretty good. Like I said, it feels weird because this is the second year now that the season has extended longer than we're used to.
Yes.
But I kind of feel like at this stage, everyone probably has some idea about the narratives that are out there. If they haven't watched all the films, they know the landscape pretty well right now.
Right. But, I also have to commend studios for making most of these films available for streaming so people can watch it. I believe all the films can be bought digitally now, and then most of them can be streamed, for free with their, whatever streaming service they have. So props to the Academy for that. Well, props to film studios for that, because that was a problem that happened, in the past years. It's like people wanted to see these movies, but they couldn't see them at home, and everyone can't go to the theater and watch these films.
Yeah, I've actually been kind of curious about that switch because I can remember pre-COVID, you had situations where the AMC would generally over the 2 weekends before the award show, they would have those packages set up so that people could grab a ticket or two and be able to see all of the best picture nominees. And I think that was helpful in some ways, but you're right. Now that we have kind of dealt with COVID and made this pivot to being able to see films at home, that has definitely opened things up for audiences in a much broader way, and gives everybody a chance to feel like, yeah, they can, if you're interested in it, you have the chance to see it before the show.
Right. And also, I want to point out that streaming came to play, and they've been coming to play, for years now. Netflix came to play, and Apple TV surprisingly came to play too. So that's excellent, I must say.
Yeah, I definitely have a little bit of a rooting interest to a certain extent in sort of the streaming side of things, because besides being a film critic, I'm also the artistic director of the Over the Rhine International Film Festival. And we were this past year able to bring in Coda as our closing night film.
Nice.
Which was a huge get for us, because I believe last year Coda actually only played 2 festivals. It played Sundance at the beginning of the year, where Apple bought it for a record $25 million. And then it played our festival in July, right? I believe we were 3 weeks before it actually premiered on, the Apple TV streaming service. So yeah, to have the opportunity to connect with them and to bring a film like that in. And I think they knew from the very beginning that was going to be a title that was going to be in the discussion during award season. Now, for them to be in the position that they're in now, where it feels like they are kind of neck and neck with Netflix and Power of the Dog in terms of being able to snag Best Picture, I don't know that they were, I don't know that they assumed that was going to happen. I'm sure they were hoping for that possibility.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. The streaming world is definitely, kind of shaping and reshaping how the industry is going to move forward.
Definitely. Now, before we proceed, let me say what the Best Picture nominees are, because we have 10 this year, which is very cool because we haven't had 10 in a while. Usually the Academy has been using, 5 to 9, but like I said, we haven't 10. We haven't had 10 since maybe 2010, I believe.
I believe so.
Long. So let me read off these nominees: Belfast, Coda, Don't Look Up, Drive My Car, Dune, King Richard, Licorice Pizza, Nightmare Alley, The Power of the Dog, and West Side Story. So TT, give us, well, you vote for the Critics' Choice Association. So tell us which one you voted for and tell us which one you think is going to win at the Oscars.
Well, I voted for The Power of the Dog, and it won the Critics' Choice. I believe that is probably going to be the case with the Oscars. Although, as I just mentioned, I think that in terms of the final stretch here, I think it feels neck and neck between The Power of the Dog and Coda, which is a little surprising because if you had talked to people, critics, and people in the industry in November,
Mm-hmm.
I think the conversation probably would have been The Power of the Dog in Belfast.
Right, definitely.
So yeah, we've seen a real shift, and again, a lot of that is because, as I've mentioned, with the season extending a little longer, award shows had to move because of COVID restrictions and things like that. It meant that as those shows started to kind of creep out, what's really happening is we're seeing sort of the power of these voters along the way, whether you're talking about the guilds or other critics groups, and how that has played out. And what's happened is, yeah, Coda has gone on a pretty strong run and picked up some awards, picked up some recognition along the way, and all of a sudden, these Oscar voters are looking at this, and the question will be, are they going to follow the narratives, or are they going to stick with, again, those front runners, which again would be The Power of the Dog in this case? Are they going to go with the front runner that's kind of been there throughout the entire season? So it feels like it's really up for grabs, which is kind of exciting because generally speaking, we don't get a season where it feels like there's going to be almost like a photo finish kind of situation.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I didn't particularly care for The Power of the Dog. I thought it was well directed and the cinematography was amazing. Don't get me wrong, but I had to be honest. It kind of dragged for me. But you know what? It's like that's just a personal thing for me. But I hope. But it was definitely well directed though. I loved. And I'm trying to think of the director's name. Jane Champion. Campion. Okay, yeah. She did a fantastic job with that movie though.
Yes.
Like I
Yes,
said,
she definitely did.
So definitely she should win Best Director. In my personal opinion, my favorite was Nightmare Alley. And I like Nightmare Alley much more than actually The Shape of Water, which was Del Toro's last film. I thought Nightmare Alley looked great. I love the performances. I love the story, and I know it was based off a previous film back from the 50s or 40s, or I think around that time period. And I think it was like a better movie. I think it was a better remake. But like I said, that's just my humble opinion. I actually wouldn't be too mad if I actually enjoy Coda quite a bit. So if Coda wins, I would definitely like that. But Power of the Dog, it wasn't a bad film at all. I'm not saying it's a bad film, but like I said, it just didn't really connect with me. But I also enjoyed, and I think a film I don't think I wouldn't mind if it didn't win, was Don't Look Up. And I know that divided a lot of people, and I was actually quite surprised that I got nominated because I believe this is Adam McKay's third dramatic film, because he did The Short. I believe that was nominated for an Oscar. Then he did Vice, that was nominated for an Oscar. And now Don't Look Up. I know the critics scores of these films have been going down, so I was actually quite surprised that Don't Look Up got nominated. But like I said, it had an all-star cast. I mean, who wasn't in that film? It was Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence, Mark Rylance, Rob Morgan, Meryl Streep, Jonah Hill. Everyone was in that film. So while it got mixed reviews, I personally loved the film myself. But do you think there will be any upsets or anything? Do you think there's a dark horse that could come in and win at the last minute?
Not in Best Picture, and I'm gonna go with you as well. On the directing side, I think Jane Campion is she's gonna make history in a number of ways with her win for Best Director, because she's literally the first female director to be nominated more than once,
Yeah,
and
that's amazing.
she will create a situation where we will have two women that have won Best Director in back-to-back years, which is, again, it's amazing to think that we're at the 94th annual Academy Awards and we're just hitting these kinds of marks along the way.
I know. I mean, a
Yeah,
lot
so
more women should have been nominated by now, but you know what? It takes time, I guess. It
yeah,
takes time.
yeah. I mean, I think to a certain extent that is also in part kind of the what we will be looking at is at this award show as a whole, because we will have moments like this with her, or in supporting actor with Troy Kotsur. He's going to end up being just he's literally just the second deaf performer to have ever been nominated at the Academy Awards, and he is going to end up winning, and the win will be even more interesting and sweeter because his co-star in the film
Yeah.
was Marlee Matlin, who's the first person to have been
Right.
nominated for an Academy Award, and she won for Children of a
Right.
Lesser God. So
Right.
yeah, again, that's another one of those cases where we're going to be seeing some history that, as it's happening and as we're documenting these moments, what I'm hoping the industry is going to be paying attention to is the idea that, okay, we can't let these moments be the last.
Mhm.
We can't rest on our laurels and say, okay, yeah, we've done it, now we can move on. Because in the same way, I was at this year, the Critics Choice Association did a celebration of Black cinema, and we had
Mhm.
an award show for that in December. And Halle Berry was there, and she was
Oh,
receiving an award, just some recognition for the idea that this year also marked her opportunity to step behind the camera as a director.
right.
So
She had that Netflix film.
yeah,
Yeah.
she had her next Netflix film, Bruised, but she was talking about, as part of her speech, the idea that every year for the last now 20 years, she has had to contend with questions about the idea of what is it like for her as the only Black woman who's ever won, in the lead actress category. And
Right.
she has said that she hopes and prays that someone else joins her, but it's not really up to her
Right.
to do anything about that situation. So in some ways, she's kind of like, I hate it when people ask me this question because I have no control over that situation.
Yeah.
But she has to take it every year. She's going to have to hear it. And to a certain extent, I'm sure Marlee Matlin probably can commiserate with her along those lines in terms of, her win, and looking at the idea that Troy Kotsur will now join her along the way. And yeah, like I said, even with Jane Campion, she's going to, kind of join a small but elite group of women as part of this too. But like I said, we cannot just allow that to end up like Halle Berry, where, okay, we got the one win, and the industry looks at it and says, okay, we've done our service and we can move on. This should be the opportunity for us to say, well, you hit a high point here. How can we extend this? How can we make sure that this representation will continue and grow and really reflect, the greater population of the audience and, the people in our country and on our planet as a whole.
Right. Now, I also want to talk about the Oscar ratings because it's generated some controversy. And by controversy, I mean like a lot of people in the Academy were mad that some of the categories are getting cut. Well, not cut, I should say, they're being edited. So they're going to be
Mhm.
presented off screen, but they're going to be edited in the way that they're going to show them like, like after the commercial breaks and everything. They're not going to be presented live. And I know
Right.
quite a few Academy members were, quite mad about that. And understandably, because a lot of the people, below the line, because I believe like some of the categories are going to be like cinematography, sound, production design. Like they're not going to be
Mhm.
presented live. And I can see, I can also see both sides to the debate? Because on one hand, ABC, they run the show, they give the Academy money, and I know the Academy, they got that, they have that new fancy museum opening up in LA, and I know that costs a lot of money to build, so they need that money. But at the same time, ABC's a business, and they want to get their money's worth, by broadcasting the Academy Awards. So I'm curious, what side do you fall on with this? Do you think the Academy members are overreacting, or do you think ABC is right about this and everything? Because, let's face the facts, the Academy Awards ratings, they've been dropping, every year. And last year was a low point, although you can argue that this is just due to the pandemic, and people hadn't seen any of those films and everything. So I'm curious, where do you fall on this side of the debate?
Well, I struggle with the idea that, again, we're talking about a show that, not even if we take out last year, the show has always been 3+ hours long.
Right.
You've always had these issues. So to come up with a decision to say we're going to pull the live presentations of some of these awards, which in an industry, in a field where, for instance, taking sound and production out as part of a huge show that is full of sound and production issues, and the technicality of putting on an Oscar telecast, to not recognize the people who were involved in that on the filmmaking side feels disingenuous at the very least. And it's just, again, these are people that don't get a lot of respect within the industry. People don't know them. This is their chance to shine. You have that one shining moment that they have where they can get up on a stage and say, yeah, I'm proud of what I do and the contribution that I make to the films that people watch. Why take that away from someone? The show is already the show. It's going to be long. We all know that. That's just a part of it. So to do that, but then on the flip side, the other issue that is actually not a part of your question, but I think is also kind of fascinating, is now we are trying to, because we want to make it flashy and attract viewers, we're coming up with this fan favorite award idea.
Oh,
and I'm like, that's a horrible,
don't.
that's a horrible thing when you put the two side by side, because
Yes.
you're basically saying we don't want to respect below the line talent that is giving us the films that we're going to give awards to, but then we're going to give like a fan award, and that's going to take up time.
That's such a horrible idea.
And it doesn't fit in with the Oscars.
I just
right. Yeah. So I have issues with the whole idea. I think that at this stage, and I don't think it's a business decision from ABC, because like I said, ABC has been doing this show for a long time.
Right.
And it's always run over. They're not taking any of their money away. I mean, it's a long show. Guess what? That means more commercials. That means they make more money.
Yeah.
So really, they have nothing. There's nothing that they can complain about in this, other than the fact that they're kind of being Scrooges and not allowing, again, some of this talent that they have the opportunity to be recognized. So I don't feel bad for ABC at all in this.
Yeah, gotcha. Let's move on to the other categories here. We're going to rush through them. Best director, as we said, it's Jane Campion. She's going to win. Yeah, okay. Now, best actor, who do you think is going to win that?
This one has probably been decided since the time this film came out. It's Will Smith and King Richard.
Yeah.
And I think Will is probably looking at this as a little bit of redemption, which I guess he should, because in reality, he lost out to Denzel Washington.
Yes, he did.
With Training Day, when he was in Ali, and I thought he was phenomenal in Ali.
Yes, he was.
I enjoyed King Richard a lot, but in terms of, if I had to stack those two performances side by side and then pick one, I'm going to go with Ali every day of the week over King Richard. But he's going to get his due for this, and I'm sure he's going to feel really good about it.
Yeah, and I think that's a lock too, because he won the SAG and he won the BAFTA. So yeah, he's definitely a lock. I mean, I know some people were saying Chadwick Boseman was a lock last year, but Chadwick didn't win the BAFTA. Usually when you win the BAFTA, you win the Oscar. It's like there's always that uncertainty. But yeah, I think
Yeah.
Will Smith is going to win too. Best actress.
Yeah, Best Actress is interesting, and again, it's interesting because this is the one category that if you look at all of the nominees, Jessica Chastain from The Eyes of Tammy Faye, Olivia Colman from The Lost Daughter, Penelope Cruz, Parallel Mothers, Nicole Kidman from Being the Ricardos, and Kristen Stewart for Spencer. All of those films that I mentioned, none of them are in the Best Picture race. So
That's true.
this category is kind of a toss-up in a lot of ways. Although I will say, I made the wrong vote for Critics' Choice because I went with Olivia Colman. She's a known performer, loved by people in the field. She's won before, and she's really great in The Lost Daughter. But I honestly feel like, yeah, the Critics' Choice winner was Jessica Chastain, and she's been nominated a few times before. She has not won. Out of this entire list, she and Kristen Stewart are the two that haven't won. I think this is going to be her year. She's gonna finally claim the statue. And Kristen Stewart was really fantastic in Spencer.
Right.
She's proven, throughout I want to say, I can't even call it the second half of her career, but her post-Twilight career has been really interesting. She's done a lot of really fascinating work, indie world, international kinds of titles. She's going to get another role that is going to land her an Oscar. It just won't be this year.
Gotcha. Okay, let's move on to supporting actor. And I think we already know it's Troy Kotsur.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like, again, this is one of those narrative choices. He's pretty much a lock. But I will say, just sort of a sentimental favorite that I have in this category. I had the chance to meet and talk to Cody Smike McPhee from The Power of the Dog.
Oh, cool.
He was fabulous in that film.
Yes,
he was even more fabulous just talking, sitting down with him one-on-one and just kind of talking about the film and the craft and everything that he put into it. But again, he's another one. He's 25 years old. He's going to have a fantastic career ahead of him. He's going to get other roles, other opportunities. But yeah, I really feel like, because his role in his film too, even though he's a supporting actor in that film, that the whole story kind of pivots on his character.
Yes.
And for him to be so young and to have such an impact on the story as it plays out, he's going to be a young performer to watch, and I cannot wait to see what he does next.
Definitely. Me too. Let's move on to Best Supporting Actress. And I think we already know this one too.
Yeah, I think we do. This is West Side Story. Another great little bit of history. Ariana DeBose, going to win here. The role of Anita in West Side Story is just the role that you win the Oscar for.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's it. It's the role that you win for.
Yeah, definitely. I think we can compare that to Joker too. Like if you're doing Batman movies, it's like, or Vito Corleone in the Godfather movies. It's like, if you're gonna play that character, you're pretty much guaranteed an Oscar.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to original screenplay.
I'm curious about this one. This is one, I think that this category, I'm gonna go with Belfast because it feels like, in some ways, if you look at Kenneth Branagh and all the times he's been nominated, and I mean, he's been nominated across a multitude of categories over his career.
Yes, he has.
But this is probably going to feel like the most personal one for him because, again, the story of Belfast is literally his story.
Yeah.
It is, him as a 9-year-old growing up in Belfast in 1969, seeing the changes in his community and the impact it had on his family. Yeah, his win here is probably going to be, in some ways, more meaningful than if he were to win in any of the other categories he's nominated for, in particular directing or Best Picture. This one, like I said, is probably going to feel really personal for him, and I think he's going to pull it out.
Definitely, and the Academy voters love that kind of stuff, so that's like Oscar bait for them. All right, let's move on to adapted screenplay. And I think that's going to be Coda, but what do you think?
Wow, you're gonna go with
I'm
Coda.
gonna go with Coda. Because I
That's an
think
interesting choice.
and the reason I think that is because I think Power of the Dog is ultimately going to win Best Picture. So I think they're going to reward Coda for something. That's usually how the Academy works. If you don't win Best Picture, you're going to reward them with the screenplay nomination. So I'm going with that. I know it's risky,
Okay.
but I'm going for it.
I hear you. I hear you. I'm not gonna go with you on it, but I hear you, and
Okay.
I applaud that one because yeah, I'm feeling like Jane has already won.
Yeah.
You know, she won an original screenplay for the piano.
Right.
I think she's gonna claim adapted here along with directing and again probably Best Picture. She's gonna walk away with an armful full of awards, and yeah, this is gonna be one of that armful.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, we're trying to wrap this up. I got two more. So we're going with Best International Feature. And I think I know this one too. I think we know this one. It's probably going to be Drive My Car.
Yeah, it is going to be Drive My Car, man. I love this film. I actually love a number of the films in this category, but you know, you mentioned the idea of being able to see these as on in home kind
Right.
of viewing opportunities. I went out of my way to not watch this one at home.
Oh
I
yeah.
went to the theater when it arrived here and
Ooh.
sat in a theater in the middle of the day with like three other people and
Wow.
had it was it was like a nice warm hug seeing
Mm,
this film on a big screen. It was amazing. So yeah, it doesn't matter how you see it,
yeah.
but it warmed my heart seeing it on a big
Right.
screen, and the 3 hour time frame did not bother me one bit.
Wow.
I would have spent 6 hours with that film if I could
Wow.
have.
That's good because, like I said, I love films, but sometimes I get a little anxious, so I had to watch this one in parts. Thank you, HBO Max.
Yeah.
But also, just something real quick I wanted to say is that that the director of that film, he also got Best Screenplay and Best Director,
hmm
and it was nominated for Best Picture. So I'm glad the Academy is embracing more foreign fare. I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I'm going to add one quick aside to that as well, because another film in this category, Flea, is
Right.
nominated in multiple categories as well. It's
Yeah.
Best International Feature, Best Documentary Feature, and it's also an animated
That's
nominee as well,
that's wild. Oh my
which you
goodness.
don't see very often at all. But
Oh my
again, you're
goodness.
right. We are seeing now films and filmmakers who are challenging the Academy to kind of expand the way that they look at these stories and where they're coming from and how they're being told. And that's exciting.
Yes, definitely. And last but not least, well, this isn't the last category, but it's the one I think unfortunately these are categories that people care about the most. But like I
Mhm.
said, this one is a personal favorite of mine. Best animated feature. Who do you
Right.
think is gonna win best animated feature?
Well, I just went ahead and threw out a whole bunch of Flea love, which I do. I love that film quite a bit, but I get the feeling it's going to be Encanto.
Oh, really? Okay. I think it was gonna be the Mitchells versus the Machines.
Oh yeah, that film has gotten a lot of love during the season as well, but I feel like especially at the Oscars and the whole Lin-Manuel Miranda connection, I
Mm,
think that will kind of steer some votes and some people towards Encanto a little bit more so than the Mitchells versus the Machines. But again, they're both really great fun films. Um, but again, like I said, I'm just excited. The idea that Flea even ended up in this category
yes,
in the first
definitely.
place is a miracle, and I'm hoping that we see more miracles like this take place.
Okay, well, that's it for the Oscars. So now we'll switch over to Morgan Angelique Owens, where she will align us with some beauty, lifestyle, and culture. So take it away, Morgan.
All right. Thank you, John. Well, I have an exciting guest that is back. You guys may have remembered her back in November. Dr. Angelica Hardee brought us some interesting facts with the American Heart. And you guys know that I was pushing for people to take these quick and easy surveys. But she has some exciting news to share. back on the podcast. So welcome.
Hey, hi everyone. Thank you for having me back. This is a great opportunity to actually be able to report back when you ask for things, but you're like, whatever happened to that girl?
Right.
So I'm excited to be back.
Yes. Well, we are happy to have you back. So can you just reintroduce yourself to our audience again?
Yes. My name is Dr. Angelica Hardee. I'm Vice President of Health Strategy at the American Heart Association in Greater Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky. And basically my job is really all things community impact. So often when we're engaging in faith-based communities, actually the specific neighborhoods, the healthcare systems, everything of the American Heart Association and how it touches the entire region, that's my job. So I have the opportunity to really greatly attempt to impact our heart and cardiovascular disease, and what can we do both inside the clinic and outside within the community.
Perfect. That's a lot. And we are so thankful to have Black women that look like you doing things like this. So thank you. And can you briefly, remind us of what you were collecting with the survey last year?
Yes. So I would say we started around late summer, early fall. And this was American Heart Association's Research Goes Red and Verily Project Baseline. It was a reproductive health survey. So it was ourselves at American Heart Association, Go Red for Women, Verily, who is the research partner. And then the program was actually made possible from a grant from BI3 here locally. So this amazing collaborative between all of us really was focused on empowering more women to participate in scientific research within the region. So the survey itself was formed by Research Goes Red, and we really wanted to start to uncover the number one killer of women, unfortunately, being cardiovascular disease. So we really were focused on creating a larger registry focused on women's heart health and having this consistent platform that we have for research. So it happens nationally, but with the help of BI3, we were really wanting to see what we can do here locally, right? Like we always look at national data samples, but like we know really where we live impacts our health more than anything. So a national data sample isn't really a good snapshot of what our outcomes are here locally. So that was kind of the reason why we wanted to do this reproductive and cardiovascular health survey.
Yeah, no, I know, what I do cardio, how important that is. So absolutely.
Yes.
So that is awesome. So let's get into the nitty gritty. So what did we find out? I'm so curious to hear about it.
Yes, so we did find that pregnancy, and we kind of knew that before, but pregnancy can greatly impact the woman's risk of cardiovascular disease during pregnancy and also later in life. So I think that was a big deal, right? Because everyone's like, okay, well, maybe I had a cardiovascular event or something that happened while I was pregnant, but like it's over now, right? I'm healthy, my baby's healthy. And we started to look a little bit further and later in life and seeing that there is definitely a correlation between cardiovascular events or some type of pre-existing condition during pregnancy and then later in life. And then it leads to, unfortunately, maternal mortality and pregnancy-related deaths and cardiovascular disease. So we kind of had thought about that. We've seen some research. There's been academic research saying that there's a link, but I think what we don't know, or what a lot of women don't know, is that exists, right? If you maybe had preeclampsia or had high blood pressure when you're pregnant or around the time, but then you never have high blood pressure again, or you're maybe not consistently checking up with your primary care physician about those things. Those are the type of things we really found from the survey. And then when we did launch the survey, we found that women knew that cardiovascular disease was important, but really did not have the connection on, I would say, that it was important to them. And I want to explain that a little bit further. It was the trusted voice in knowing that it can impact them later in life. A lot of times we're like, oh yeah, cardiovascular disease. And we think sometimes later in life, and we are seeing much, much more regularly younger women, especially younger women of color, unfortunately passing away from cardiovascular diseases, a variation, right? Some that maybe have been congenital and just been uncovered, and a lot of different things that may have happened. So we really started to uncover and find there was a knowledge gap, right? And what is currently happening, but then there's also a gap of trusted voice, right? How do we, you mentioned curvy cardio, right? So like you are a trusted voice. Like when you're talking about getting active and moving and being healthy, you're a trusted voice in the community. So how do we continue to have that trusted voice outside of the clinical setting too? Because that was found as a gap, right? We know, yes, you go see your doctor, you know, hopefully it's just once a year when you get your annual physical. That's not enough, right? How do we continue these conversations? Because there is definitely a gap in knowledge and actually connectedness for the women's quality of care.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think especially as Black women, we talk to our peers, we talk to our mothers, our grandmothers, and just, even me, family history, like a lot of Black women that I know that are related to, that have given birth, that had trouble during their pregnancy or giving birth, now have underlying heart issues. So that's very interesting for me to hear, and a little, eye-opening, because, I am 36. I've never been pregnant. I hope to be pregnant one day, but, having these open conversations, but also reading these types of studies, but ladies also participating in these type of studies, opening up.
Please.
Talking with my mother, I didn't learn later that, she had a miscarriage, but a lot of Black women have miscarriages, or, even though my father was a prominent physician, having issues at the hospital with her care, you know what I mean? So, and we hear stories about that all the time with, Serena Williams and even Beyonce, how they're treated, and how many Black women have died in the hospital after giving birth, because they weren't listened to. So, so yeah, you gave some.
It's just so important to understand our risk factors of cardiovascular disease, knowing the signs and symptoms, and creating those conversations. Like, I think we often are, I wouldn't say ashamed, but it's just not a norm. Like, we'll talk about wellness, we'll talk about self-care, but like getting into the nitty-gritty of like, how am I doing everything I can personally to avoid cardiovascular things? That's getting active, eating healthy. How are we creating, meals for ourselves? How are we limiting sodium in our diet? And I think as we continue, because I think we are starting to do a very good job about doing this work. I'm an optimist anyway, but I do believe that we are changing how we take care of ourselves and how we're managing stress. And I think, you know what, this work is just another layer in the work that is already happening within the community.
Yeah, I came across a meme the other day that said, the strong Black woman thing is done with. Like, that was cute for a while, but we just want to land somewhere and just be soft. So I think that's it too. Like, we're tired of acting and being strong all the time, and want to be soft and vulnerable and actually take care of ourselves. So I absolutely agree.
Yes, I definitely agree. So we're excited to have a few opportunities to be a part of like what's next, right? We hope to educate women, I would say walk alongside on the education, like be a resource. Because as I mentioned, we know that the best conversations come from one another. So how do we like start the conversation like here, and then like we're like, okay, bye, and then we start the conversation, because we know we're not, even though we come and we have the science, at the end of the day, the conversation that I had with my mom, you mentioned having with your mom, like those are the ones that stick. Those are the ones that you carry with you, and you change habits, or you talk to one of your girlfriends, or you talk to another group in the community about that work.
Yeah, well, I mean, I could talk about this all day. So where can people go to learn more, or get involved, or whatever else you need them to do?
I would say to be determined. We are excited because we're planning right now. We're definitely in the planning phase. You will probably see us a lot more regularly in the community and popping in, as I mentioned, popping in and popping out, and trying to engage in already existing groups, I would say. Okay. So if you do have an opportunity for the American Heart Association to engage in something maybe that's already existing, when we were doing survey recruitment, we realized like my light bulb went off, right? Like, we're not creating another group. We're plugging into groups that already have trusted voices and just asking, we would love to come and educate and talk to you about this work. So please, if you have the opportunity, my name is Angelica Hardee. It's angelica.hardee@heart.org, and would love to have come and talk in your space and what other resources, blood pressure management, like there's so many things that we can talk about what we can do, and would love to plug into already existing spaces and really expand this education about women's cardiovascular health.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm sure the conversation won't end here, but we would love to have you back on, because I think this is definitely an important topic to keep talking about. Wellness and beauty go hand in hand. So thank you.
Yes, we will continue this conversation.
Yes. All right, John, back to you.
All right. Thanks, Morgan. Well, everyone, that's it for today's show. So thanks, Andrea, for coming on and discussing all that good chocolate news earlier.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you, TT, for coming on discussing the Academy Awards. And TT, where can people find you on social media and everything?
I am only on Twitter. It's at TT Stern-Enzi. And I will be live tweeting during the Oscar telecast. So if you want to get my takes and the quick takes on the wins and the winners and losers, that'll be the place to find me.
Awesome. And remember, folks, you can find more information about today's topics and past podcast episodes at www.thecincinnatiherald.com, the Sesh newsletter, and on our social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app. Our podcast is on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, the Facebook mobile app, YouTube, and Google Podcasts. I'm John Alexander Reese, and have a good day.